And we are live. You can catch us on Twitch, Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. And we got some very special guests today. So we'll be right back with you, Howlers. We'll be right back.
Howls of a Bass. I'm Ronnie Adams.
I'm Jacob Casas, and this episode is called Previously on X-Men. So I want to let you introduce yourself real quick. And
Thank you, Joe Angel, guest moderator here. Yes, much appreciated.
Yeah, so we got two very, very, very special guests today. I would like you guys to introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little bit about what you guys do.
Well, hello, I am Julia Leewald. I am a writer, mostly TV, mostly animation, some live action, young Hercules with a very young Ryan Gosling.
Nice.
Nice.
To talk about X-Men the Animated Series. And I was fortunate enough to be a writer on the series and a fly on the wall for the whole 5-season run.
Nice. And I'm Eric Leewald, and I've also had a long career in animated TV primarily, and I was the showrunner on X-Men the Animated Series, which means if you liked the stories or hated the stories, it's my fault. We can't draw, either one of us, so it's all in the script writing, and we met at Disney doing the afternoon back when Disney Afternoon was a big deal.
Wow. So, this is like a big moment for us. And we know that X-Men is coming back on Disney Plus. We're all hyped about it.
Right.
I can't even believe I'm talking to you guys. I was a massive fan growing up as a kid. I'm still a big comic nerd and comic fanatic, cartoon fanatic. So you guys, but I wanted to kind of get into you guys about being the creators. So you guys had a lot of room to create the animated series, right?
Well,
It was, there had been about 25 years of comics, so there'd been a lot of stories, a lot of different, we counted the number from 1963 to 1992 when we started, and there'd been 29 different people that had been X-Men during that time in the books. So we had kind of a lot to pick from, but everybody, and Marvel and Fox TV and everybody had opinions about, who the main folks should be, but it came down really to who made for the best stories, who are the most different from each other. Diverse sounds like we're doing diversity, but that wasn't it. We just wanted everybody to be so different from each other that the powers were different and the looks were different and the characters were different, so that if an audience member heard a line, they'd know it was a Rogue line, they'd know it was a Gambit line, and they'd know it was a Wolverine line. So that was the thought that went into picking the 8 or 9 folks we used.
But I also want to qualify here. Eric got the phone call. You had been put on hold by Fox Kids to work on another series, and that was going to be fine because as the showrunner for that meant a certain amount of employment.
Can we just know the series? I'm very interested to know what series.
Oh yeah, it was Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Nice. Oh, okay,
Nice.
okay.
Our friend at Fox, I'd done a year of running the Beetlejuice show for them at Fox.
Okay.
And that was really good experience. And it was downtime. And Sydney Eyewater, who was like the second in command there, called up and said, are you free for the next 6 months? Could you do tomatoes for us? I said, well, I don't know if it's my favorite show, but heck yeah, I could use the work. And then the night before the Monday morning meeting, when we were going to meet everybody, he called us and man, it's not Killer Tomatoes. That's for the public to hear. We're going to do X-Men, and Marvel's in town. Stan Lee will be there in the morning. You guys are going to be doing an X-Men show. And my reaction at Sunday night, with no internet to check up on, is that, man, that's a Marvel book, right? I had not read the books. I'd read other comics, and so I had to keep my mouth shut during that meeting the next day and pretend that I knew what I was doing in setting the show up.
You also deserve all the credit in the world. You and your head writer guy, Mark Edens, that Monday morning from that meeting, it was, okay, we need this show on the air for September of this was February, September 92. That is a tight time window.
Yeah, so they said lay out the whole 13 episode story ideas and write up the show Bible and give us a pilot script in 2 weeks, please.
Wow.
So it was like, hit the ground running.
Did you say 13 series?
Yes.
Well, yeah, the story ideas for the 13 episodes.
Wow.
And this is to remember that way back when you were only offered, everybody on X-Men were only offered 13 episodes. That's as far as the higher ups thought the show would run. They said, you've got 13 episodes, you're out and you're done.
Yeah. It's weird to think about now, but there hadn't been a successful Marvel movie or not a very successful Marvel TV show.
Yeah.
So nobody out here in Hollywood, except for Margaret Lash, who was our boss, who made it all happen, believed that the show was going to succeed. So they hired us, and we wrote, and the artist drew as fast as we could. And then they let us all go, and waiting for the animation to come back from overseas, just assuming it would just be one and done. One series, 1 year, one season and done. And then it became this immense hit. The fans loved it, and we all got these frantic phone calls about 3 weeks into the season saying, "Oh, you guys can all come back, right?" And about 2/3 of us could, but they lost some good people by not quite having faith that it was going to be the hit that it was.
Well, that's what I want to ask you guys too. So, I mean, if you really think about it, you really created the characters for what they are now. I mean, you guys. I mean, we had some of them on the old Spider-Man series and things like that, but they were nothing compared to what you guys did to them. I mean, you guys gave them a whole different kind of character than what they were before. You guys brought a lot of life to them. I wanted to ask you, like, how, I mean, because, I mean, just like you said, from Gambit to Wolverine to Beast, you gave them so much character. I feel like you guys put so much into them. And if you look at even the cartoons now, there's nothing like the X-Men. There's nothing like the X-Men. You guys have a massive cult following. There is, like, nothing that compares to that series.
That's why they brought it back. Yeah.
I mean, it's like when I had no idea I was going to interview you guys, right, before all this, and when we found out, me and my brother found out this was coming back up, we were going nuts. Like, X-Men, what the heck? They're bringing this back. And when I told him I was interviewing you guys, they're like, no. He's like, no way. He didn't even believe me. I was like, this is a trip, because we were like the biggest fans of that show. I was a little kid watching that show. We'd be looking at each other like, did you just see what happened? You guys blew our minds from that time. Mm-hmm. It was insane, man.
Oh, we can jump right into the opening story there about blowing young people's minds. Again, all credit to Margaret Lash, the president of Fox Kids, who had worked at Marvel and had tried to sell an X-Men show, couldn't give it away.
For 10 years.
Yeah, couldn't give it away to the rest of the networks. Fox Kids starts, she becomes president, and she says, we're going to have an X-Men show. You and Mark Edens at our dining room table. Fox Kids was trying to make a name for itself. Fox Network was trying to become a major player, and they allowed you the latitude to make a decision that I still can't believe you were able to make. And
that's to kill Morph in the first story.
I know, that was crazy.
that kind of adult stuff, and the reason I think that the show's lasted is that. For the first, we'd all been working for a number of years in the business, the artists, the writers, and we'd all gotten to a certain level, both of experience and also, frustration at trying to do certain, more intense, more challenging shows, and having people in Hollywood say, no, that'll freak the kids out. We need something, dumb it down, make it younger. So finally, Margaret sits us down, and Sydney, and they sit us down and they say, no, write this for yourselves. This is an adult show. This is primetime television.
Right.
These are adult dramas. Look at the books. I mean, the books are ferocious.
Right.
So we're not going to do, X-Men babies. We're not going to do some little pretend version.
Yes.
We want you to do, we give you the opportunity to write an adult version of the X-Men. And so that, the writers that we worked, 20 different people worked with me before we finished the 76 episodes. People, folks like Julia that had written for other studios and never had a chance to express themselves the way that we did on X-Men. And it all comes back to our bosses saying, run with it and, make it more challenging, push the envelope farther than you're doing already, because we'll be here to support you. If we get 1,000 angry letters from crazed parents that are freaked out by the show, we'll back you up. We won't throw you under the bus. Do it. And that was a gift, man. A gift we never got before or after in our writing careers.
Well, the writing's so unique. Like nothing compares to that at all right now. I mean, there has not been. The only other one that I think comes close to is the old Spider-Man series. I mean, those are the two best written series there is for any type of comics at all. Those are the best ones. Nothing has came close to those.
We got to tip our hat too to the original Batman.
Oh, Batman,
animated
of course.
series,
Oh yeah,
'cause that,
yeah.
I mean,
Of course.
that's the gold standard.
And it's a small community out here. There may be a couple hundred folks back then that wrote for cartoons, and a couple hundred artists that drew for them, and we all knew each other. And the people that designed the X-Men show, they'd done a couple storyboards for the Batman show. Everybody, so we were all kind of a little bit, competitive with each other, like siblings. And Batman had been going for about a year before we started, as far as getting the design going and getting the money in. And we looked at it, and our head designer, Will Minio, looked at us and said, my God, we're not going to be able to do something this beautiful. So instead of doing this kind of painterly beautiful thing, we're going to do like a garage band. It's going to be like rock and roll. We're going to cut it twice as fast, and we're going to make it really move. Because if you pause on it the way you could kind of linger on Batman, the beautiful show, then you're going to start saying, well, our animation is a little cheaper, and this isn't quite right. So he said, man, give it some pay, and that it made me really happy, because okay, we're doing heroic stories, and the production people are telling us we can make them go twice as fast as previous action shows, and it just got us going. So it was we had a small budget, and so that kind of it worked to our advantage. We ended up with a much better pace.
Do you have something you want to ask?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I definitely want to chime in for a second. Nice meeting you again. I want to take you back to a memory back when you guys first had that accomplishment with X-Men. I think you guys were 4 weeks in, and it was the #1 Saturday show worldwide in America. Can you tell? That's amazing. Like, that's unheard of. Within 4 weeks, you guys were the #1 cartoon or show Saturday mornings worldwide nationwide in America.
Hostile takeover.
Yeah. How did that make you feel? Like, you can take us back to that moment?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's hard to go back. If we're communicating right now over magic Star Trek kind of technology, but back in 1992,
no internet.
There was no internet. Things were communicated by fax machine. And so once a week, we would be notified from the Fox Kids Network people, the ratings. The ratings, there's a term, the ratings,
right.
The Nielsen ratings. And as soon as it came out of the gate, it hit #1. And again, Fox Kids was fourth by a distance, as far as networks go.
Right.
We were so jazzed.
And then it hit.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, there were two things. One was during that whole year, during 1992, while we were writing it and the artists were drawing it, and everybody in the creative group, we pretty much all agreed what the show needed to be, and so we were really excited. But all sorts of people around the show, like advertisers and other creative people and other people, the network, or a couple of folks at Marvel, they were wondering, well, there's no kid show like this on TV.
Right.
We can't sell cereal on this. This is something completely. They were freaking out, and we were getting some real pushback about what we'd written and what we'd drawn, and so there was a lot of fights between February and the following January when the show premiered, and then once it had shown once or twice, and it was obvious kids loved it. All that pushback was gone. So the biggest thing we felt was relief. Like, okay, we're gonna get another season of work, and
Right.
that was good because we had two babies at home. We're gonna get another season of work, and they're not gonna give us crap about it being too adult anymore. They've seen that kids will watch this.
Right, right, definitely.
They're gonna let us tell this kind of story, and we could feel free to just to go as far as we possibly can with it. So that was the biggest feeling. It wasn't so much like look at the great thing we did
Right.
because we didn't really have a context for it. We didn't. It was like, okay, this has been the coolest job we've ever had.
Were you questioning were you ever questioning were the parents going to allow the kids to watch it
Right.
also?
Oh, sure.
How was that? How was that fear in the beginning?
Interestingly, and because the power of an angry parent is big in the world of children's television animation, and back then you only had the three major networks plus Fox Kids on Saturday morning, and Saturday morning was a block. That was like appointment viewing for kids.
Right.
So parents
Watched,
Parents
and
were
they were
aware.
aware if there was something a little too weird.
Now the interesting thing is you had worked as story editor for the previous
So
year
for Beetlejuice,
for Beetlejuice.
and believe it or not, we asked the Fox people, we said, our parents were writing in saying, no, this X-Men thing's way too intense and violent and adult and crazy. And they said, no, not really. He said, the most letters we get are from angry religious parents saying that Beetlejuice is a demon that lives down in hell.
That is funny. Oh my
So, yeah.
God! It's
So, yeah,
animation. It's a character.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we were relieved because you don't know if there's enough anger from parents, it can shut a show down,
Yes.
Yeah.
or make you change the tone.
Right.
And that never came. The anger never came.
That's good.
Anger didn't, but a certain amount of love. I got to jump in with this story. We kind of glossed over it, but you and Mark Edens were determined to tell in the grander Joseph Campbell kind of scheme of things, heroic stories about heroes and their journey. And the point of the death of Morph was to be a sacrifice, to show there are consequences, to prove that this is real. And Avery Coburn, the
Yeah.
woman who was broadcast standards and practices at Fox, had absolute law. She was the absolute law. If she didn't approve anything, it didn't go on the air. And I remember when you suggested that you and Mark
That
thought,
we kill one of the X-Men in the first story.
I'm like, well, good luck getting it past them, Avery. That's never going to fly.
Right.
But Avery understood. She understood what you were going for.
But she knew and liked the books, and she liked intense storytelling. So it took some back and forth, but she got why we had to make that sacrifice. Because look, this isn't about showing somebody getting blown up on screen. This is about the rest of the family grieving over a loss.
Yeah.
And that's how the Morph death
story,
happened. It
yeah.
happened off screen, and you immediately saw all the different X-Men just losing it and saying, "Oh my God, what's happened?"
Well, correct me if
And
I'm wrong.
that's-
So when it came to X-Men, though, you guys were like the first to really see. I mean, I remember seeing the heroes argue and fighting over Jean and Wolverine and Cyclops always arguing. I was like, dang, I didn't know heroes argue like that. I remember being a little kid. Like, I feel like that was the first time I really seen like real life heroes like interacting the way they did. I thought that was dope, and I feel like a lot of people try to copy you guys after that. But I seen that, and I was like, that's crazy. I remember like thinking a whole different like world of X-Men when it came to stuff like that. How did you guys write for so many characters and make it so good? You guys were able to really dial in on these characters and show their story, each one of them.
Yeah.
That was interesting. And again, realizing that, Eric, you were hired as a showrunner for 13 episodes, and I got to write one of those episodes, but that was it. And then tapped to come back for a second season. And again, at that point, it's like, well, that's going to be it. That's all the episodes we're going to get. So the first season was a conscious decision to lay the groundwork, explain who the X-Men were, and then end with Days of Future Past Part 1, Part 2, and then the
final decision.
the final decision as the three-parter that could be a wrap-up for the series run, if that's as far as it goes. Then when word came back that they wanted to go further, if you go back to that last episode, it's Scott and Jean having a wonderful moment on a by on a lake on a
And they're going to get
and they're
married.
going to get married.
I was just gonna ask. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I was just gonna ask. Did
happily
you
ever
guys
after
put any of
storyline.
your love story in any of these episodes?
Yeah, we know. You can see that right
definitely
now.
there.
You guys are Scott and Gene right here, huh?
That's what and you hit it right on the top. Have you put any of your love stories or
Oh,
inside of one of your episodes or?
well, the artists draw a lot of their friends and family in the background, and we give names and we have moments. We quote friends sometimes what people don't know. As like, for instance, in a story that Julie came up with called Beauty and the Beast.
Where Beast falls in love with a blind woman
With the blind girl, and
she's in love with him, but her father's
Yeah,
a racist
yeah,
and
yeah.
they can't a bigot against mutants.
and the name of the Beast's buddy there at the eye clinic was Dr. Alec Bolson, and that's the name of our younger son.
He was born in October when the show came out.
And the girl that falls in love with Beast is named Carly Crocker, and that's the daughter of our best friend from Disney.
Nice.
And so there's all sorts of stuff there's all
Nice.
sorts of family stuff in there,
Yeah.
and obviously you remember personal things, but I don't remember consciously. What I think more Julia's thinking about being a mother. The second episode she got to write was called "Whatever It Takes." It's where Storm
Season
goes
2.
back to Africa, and
yeah,
she
good
meets
one.
up with her godson and has to save him, and all this
From the Shadow King, yeah.
from the Shadow King, and all this ferocious maternal instinct coming out.
Nice.
Where Storm and Rogue are kicking this guy's ass to save this boy.
Yeah.
And so there's personal things pop up in the stories for sure.
Good.
I want to chime in just really
Yeah, go
quick
ahead.
before we
Go
get
ahead.
too far
Introduce
away.
yourself first.
Yeah, before we
Yeah,
get too
he-
far away, because
yeah.
trust me, I'm getting lost too. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Let me ask something really quick. Yeah, I'm Joe Angel, by the way, is here asking because so many of our generation, like we remember so many things that, just really quick. I just want to touch on just one quick thing. Johnny Quest, Bionic 6, like Spiral Zone, these some of your credits are just crazy, mind-blowing, like that people just forget. Like just hearing those words are like, oh wow, there was a whole generation of like cartoons, and just I felt like almost like a boiling point. Your talents like were definitely on full display for the X-Men. But what I was going to ask was so many of us we remember where we were the very first time we watched the intro, specifically the intro. I want to talk about the intro to the show because it was like a bomb went off. It was like a bomb went off in the consciousness of so many young kids. I mean, namely in my neighborhood for sure,
Right.
at my school, my little league team. I mean, like it took over everything. Where were you when you first saw the intro for the first time? And do you remember? I mean, were you excited? Did it make sense? I mean, because you kind of touched on it a little bit, how you had to describe the characters kind of, and the intro does that. Like it has the name, it has the powers, it has all that. So I'll let you, explain.
Yeah, that was really amazing. We didn't. A couple other folks, Will Mineo and Sidney Iwaner. Will, who was like the supervising producer, who was the guy
On the art side.
on the art side, and was in effect like the head designer and really the heart and soul of the look and the feel and the comic book feel of the show. He and Sidney Iwaner, the guy from who was our immediate boss at Fox, spent like, I don't know how long, 20 attempts at getting the opening credits right. First,
Oh, wow, 20 attempts?
They tried some other stuff. The people pitched things like, a sing-song thing like, "Hi, we're the X-Men."
Oh,
Jesus
dang.
Christ.
Yeah, and then Stan Lee wanted to narrate the opening.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, true believers.
True Believers, yeah.
Yeah,
He was
these
known for, yeah.
are they part of an atom bomb? These strange creatures that you don't know. They're called mutants. So that was another version, and so there were half a dozen versions. And Will put his foot down and said, "No, we're doing an action. Nobody says anything. It's just going to be an intense action opening." And the thing that was a reference point for us was for Larry Houston and for me and for Will was the original Johnny Quest from 1964, which blew us away when we were little kids.
Oh, yeah.
And if you
It's like a
think about that,
fast-paced,
all that is fast-paced music and action
True.
bits from
Punches
the
you in the
show.
face.
is the opening Johnny Quest. That hooked us in when we were little. And so, hey, that's the style we want. So that we had that figured. But Ron Wasserman, this wonderful composer, came up with it and built and built and built, and he was getting kind of mad. He said, "Look, I've layered in so many things on this track," and he just our guys, Will and Sydney, just kept on sending it back to him. No, make it more intense, make it more intense. It's not X-Men yet, and so those three people are the ones we give credit for making it work. And Will and Larry Houston designed that incredible opening, that 1 minute opening that sets up the entire world. They did that in like 3 days.
Oh, I mean, there's countless.
Larry did a
I wish we
version.
could play it.
Yeah, there's
you guys-
countless like geek lists.
Dude, you guys rocked us out. When I
yeah.
was a kid, we were over there fighting like we were in
mean,
Cyclops, fighting each other during the
yeah,
whole intro.
it was
And then
crazy.
as soon as it started, we're like, boom,
you sit
quiet.
down. Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
like you rocked us out, man.
Definitely. And so many geek lists like on the internet, and so much of the fandom, like it's by far and away, without a shadow of a doubt, the most memorable, the most number on everybody's list, of the most memorable intro. Like, yeah, Batman the Animated Series, yeah, for sure, Spider-Man, but just
X-Men.
the way it punches, just the way,
Yeah.
it's just an adrenaline hit. To it,
Okay, since we're
like
sharing right
if
now-
the cereal wasn't
Julia
enough, the Lucky
Campbell-
Charms wasn't enough
has
for a 9-year-old.
a geek moment here.
Right.
There's a mistake, an art mistake in the opening credits. And she'll show it to you from this book we've got. Because when we did an art book about the show.
Oh, we
they
can
laid
follow
out
along.
the-
We have it right here.
Yeah, we have it.
So look
Page
at the
45.
Page
Look at
45.
45.
Okay.
I'll let,
We'll
let him do it. Here you go.
Oh, okay, page
You can't compare
45.
them to Power Rangers today.
Stay on
No,
task.
X-Men, man. X-Men was
Yes.
it. Dude.
or just
45.
the opening, open the first,
You know what? This is easier. Just go to the front page here in the front.
the very front page.
Oh yeah, here's the storyboards for everything.
Okay, now look at Can you find Gambit after Beast? Where it's like you got Beast and then you got Gambit with 4 cards.
And
You see-
Gambit's going to throw his cards.
You see
Yes.
these 4 cards? Okay,
Okay,
take a real good look.
Look closely at the spade on the ace.
Oh, the
It's
upside down spade.
Oh, yeah.
Oh wow, that's so funny.
is-
I never.
Which
None of us caught that.
none of us caught that for 20 years.
30.
30 years. Or then we did
Oh, leave it to
book.
the internet. Leave it to the internet.
And we called Larry, who drew it, and he said, "Oh man, they must have screwed that up overseas." And he checked his original art, and he said, "Oh no,
No.
man, I messed up the spade." And it's not a conspiracy.
Viewers can see.
It's not a conspiracy, but
What I'm
it's a
showing.
mistake that's there. In the
I
opening
do
credits.
want to jump into this, guys. I got to so bad. That you guys left was the biggest cliffhanger in the world for years, because Xavier dies at the end, and we were like, no, like now it's finally coming back. But dude, like that was the biggest cliffhanger ever. We were like, what's next? We're little kids. It's like we didn't really know that it was gonna be
yeah, we
ending
didn't.
after
It was
that.
so heartbroken.
So we were like, what's going on? What's going on? It's not coming back, But yeah, so when they hit you guys up though, to do the new series.
Right. Good segue.
What were you guys thinking? What were you guys feeling when they hit you up to come back and do this?
Yeah, well,
Never in a million years thought we'd be here.
Yeah.
Never in a million
Because
years.
in Hollywood, it's really hard to come back and do a continuation of a show. And 99 times out of 100, they say, "Well, you guys did one 30 years ago. That's cool. We've got our people. We've got our people now that you're in their 30s, like you were, to do this now." And just to be clear, there are like 100 people, very talented people your age, that made this new show. X-Men
No one could
97.
touch this show.
Yeah,
It has to be you guys.
They brought us on
With Larry Houston.
with Larry Houston.
We already know what they would do to this show.
We're
if
just
someone
we're
else touched it.
consultants meeting. The young people are doing all the work. They're coming out with all the stories. They just said they wanted us as their first audience, and so we'd look at it and said, "Well, that's wonderful, cool, and we would have done this maybe a little differently, but we like to see what you're doing." So we were just helping these folks out. We're involved, but it's not our show. We're there to help these incredibly talented people in their 20s and 30s who grew up on the show and love the old show, and are doing this and as a continuation. Again, they wanted to make it clear for everybody. This is starting like the week after ours ended. This is like if you'd gone back after the episode
where it ends on the graduation day.
On
Yeah.
graduation day, and Xavier's going off into space with Lalandra, and you'll never see him again. And okay, then What's going to happen next Saturday? This is next Saturday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it's such a
Yeah.
treat. It's such like a special gift to so many people. Like, it's more than just that. It's more than just season 6. It's more than just all that. And it means a lot to everybody.
So thank you for the
Yeah, thank you
700
so much, yeah.
episodes that you blessed us with. Right? Over 730 half an hour episodes. Over 700. Over
Yeah.
14.
Over
And-
the years. Yeah.
And I feel like there's so many unsung fans too that don't ever make it to conventions to meet you and tell you to your face. That's the majority of fans in reality. They don't actually get to go, or they don't make it around to go, but they love it. They talk about it. They have the most questions. When I mentioned I was going to be here, people are like, oh, wait, you can ask them. Oh, are you serious? Like, it's unbelievable to most people because it seems so far out of reach to them. But like I said, it's such a special treat. And really quick, other than there's so many storylines to talk about, other than like Days of Future
You're like,
Past,
really
like
quick,
the
but I got
Phoenix,
500 things to
yeah, like
ask.
the Time Fugitives. Like there's just it's so sophisticated but yet it was like it was meat and potatoes enough for a 9-10-year-old mind to grasp it. And then wait for the next one. And it was still enough for like an adult to watch it. You can watch it with your older cousins, your dad, your uncles, and it was like something everyone can watch. And like it bonded so many people in so many ways. I just feel like it's hard to not acknowledge those facts, and like to bring it back to when those people find out it's coming back, it's like, no, what? Like they're confused. And it's like, oh yeah, no, it is. And when that trailer came out, by the way, a week ago,
Yeah.
whenever it was, oh man.
February
Like,
15th.
Yeah, what did you guys think about that? What do you think about the look of it?
I love it, man. I want, but my whole thing is this. I just want to. I want it to stay true to the original, and that's what I'm hoping. Because everything changes.
Well, that was
when it
the
comes
Spider-
back. But I'm so glad that you guys are in
Right?
it. Because you guys are the X-Men. You two are the X-Men. I mean, you understand what I mean? Like, you guys are the X-Men. You gave the X-Men their look, their whole entire style, their personality. You gave it all to them.
And hopefully they listened and took, advice and wisdom from you, your help, and so
They have been very open.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
you know what?
yes,
You made a
it's
joke
very
before
positive.
at a question, a Q&A, how you got the first voice tracks back. Can you talk about
Oh,
that?
yeah.
What's
Yeah, I
up?
like that one a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, it was, guys. It was so painful. You guys
Be
have.
right back.
You guys have. I don't know. She's right off there.
I'm going to get an audio cassette.
Yeah. And she's gonna
Oh,
run get
what?
one.
Oh, what a
So,
str-
so
oh,
it's
okay, nice.
So
An
it's probably
exclusive.
because we were waiting down here to hear, and we spent a couple months, and we had all 13 stories working, and we had 5 or 6 scripts done, and we'd sent the first 2-parter, the opening,
Night of the Sentinels.
Night of the Sentinels, up there, and we're waiting to hear, and it was a good group of people in Toronto that were recording. It's very, they're talented folks. They'd been the company that did recordings for Beetlejuice, so they know how to do voices. They're cool, and we get the voices back, even though they know how to do voices, they didn't believe, looking at our scripts, that we wanted it to sound as adult as we wanted it to sound. They thought it was going to be closer to Scooby Doo. So we got
Jesus
goofy
Christ.
high pitch over the top.
Right.
We got the silly cartoony version of the X-Men, and all we could do is, we're listening to this audio cassette of this 2-part story that we put our heart and soul into. And we thought, oh God, it's over, it's done, it's ruined. If it's anything close to this,
Where's
we
the
might as
real
well
action, huh?
we just might as well just kill ourselves now. 'Cause
Career's
there's not
over.
going to be an X-Men comic fan in the world that's going to enjoy this. This is just terrible.
I do want to ask a
That's such a
question.
crazy
The Beast's voice. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, when we were a kid, there's no way you thought that voice would come out of a Beast character. So that was like so unique and
so
cool. I
rich.
thought that was like the coolest thing ever when you guys came up with the whole Beast style voice. I was
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
wow, blown away. That
And
was the
let's be
first time.
honest, If you see an image of any of the X-Men now, you can't tell me you're not hearing Cal Dodd as
Oh,
Wolverine.
when people read the comic
Yeah.
books,
Norris
yeah,
and
that's
as
what they
Rogan.
hear. It's impossible not
Yeah,
to.
that's
Everybody
what-
copies you guys. There's just no
Oh,
way
yeah,
around it.
yeah.
The X-Men, you guys, they're.
So going again, way back machine, 1992 to 93, when the voice talent stuff was happening, that was in Toronto, Canada. The budget was so tiny. The writing was happening, the art was happening in Los Angeles. Marvel was based in New York, and the voice talent was up in Canada. they would make the audio cassettes and they'd put them in the mail and they would mail them down.
It's snail mail to us, and then
Oh, Christ.
we'd fax them back notes about it. And that was our
communication.
high tech.
That was as fast as it got. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was as fast as it got. Yeah.
Wow.
and all the time while they're hand painting that stuff over in Korea, killing themselves, hundreds of people. And we look back at it now when everything's computerized now, it goes so much faster. But back then, they needed to paint 800,000 cells to do 1.5 hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you had all
people
these
forget about
buildings
that.
full of people painting this stuff and layering it over each other and photographing 8 or 9 bits on top of each other and then moving them slightly and then and doing that each thing for a 1/12 of a second or however long that bit that they've photographed. And the amount of heavy lifting that went into making those shows, who were just doing the stories just kind of took it for granted. Okay, well, here's a big spectacular story. Just paint it all, and then we'd get call back, for the producers. Guys, you just killed us.
Wow.
We can't make it this big. Can we make it 2/3 this big? We'll still push it through. But it was
That's a lot of
those
work.
guys were yeah.
I was looking back here to see if we had a Mr. Sinister that I could grab quickly, but I don't think I see one here. But Mr. Sinister, for fans of the show, if you remember, he had that beautiful big cape, and the cape had
Like 20
flares. Yeah.
the rooster tail flares.
Yeah, the rooster
on the
tail
back.
flares. Yeah, an artist, a notorious artist dream to draw in the comics.
And so, like, if you're just doing it in the comic book, that's cool because you're not moving it. But
Imagine
so
animation,
our poor Larry Houston just loves talking about. He called the people over the animators overseas and said, "Look, don't worry, I'm not going to ever let this man turn
around,
because
stick him against the wall."
you have to redraw
Right.
100 little points of that cape every time the guy looks to the left or looks to the right. So you'd see Sinister kind of coming out of the darkness, and then you'd see him look somewhere, and then you cut something else, you cut back, and he would have already turned. And that made him kind of creepy, kind of like Dracula
Yes.
creepy.
Yeah, I loved the
Right.
Sinister, man. He was dope.
And it was
Right.
all started because we couldn't afford the money to animate him.
Dang, that's
love
crazy.
that.
But you guys
I
made a
love those
whole
facts.
but you guys made a whole
Yes.
different like view of him now because of that. Like you guys, it's like, you know what I mean? Like you guys created the whole style of the Sinister. Then that's just
And I feel
from
like-
because of that, you know.
And you familiarize so many people with the characters, and when they made the movies, they acknowledged that they underestimated how familiar the fans were, I think that story that you guys, that episode, that Weapon X Lies and videotape, they plucked almost every single Wolverine movie plucked from your that 22 minute. It's just hard to not acknowledge that, by the way, like such an amazing little piece of animation, and every single Wolverine movie has those elements of just that episode.
So go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no. When Larry Houston and Will Mineo were coming up with the opening title sequence, one of the points from Margaret Loesch was, you need to understand, because on the art side, those guys, Larry and Will, were huge comic book fans, and they knew the X-Men inside and out. I didn't, you didn't, and as Margaret Loesch said, it's the #1 comic book, but in terms of TV ratings, it's not.
80 or 90% of your audience won't know who these people are, won't know the books, won't know what a mutant is. So you have to be really clear and careful and let everybody know who these people are and what their powers are and what the problems are, and remind them occasionally because they're going to need to be kind of handheld and let into this. And that was really good for us as we were writing the initial stories because it let us keep things fairly simple and clear, and that let the youngest kids kind of follow.
Right.
Yeah.
And as we went further along and the stories became bigger and they went out to outer space and we'd have 5-parters like the Phoenix Saga, we could become
Beyond
more
Good and Evil,
ambitious.
yeah.
But that first year or two, we were trying to careful to keep things real clear and as simple as we could among this group of people because we couldn't bet on the fact that fans were turning in. Just kids were turning in, and kids needed to keep this stuff clear.
Well, I love how you guys did. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Ronnie asked about ratings, and a thing that we found out after, as this thing is rolling out, was the audience, the target demographic was young boys 8 to 12.
Yeah.
That's,
Yep.
but it turned out, as the ratings came back, you also mentioned families watching it.
Everybody.
And then it
Oh,
turned out it was-
100%.
2 to 5 year olds watched it.
Yes.
Girls watched it.
Yes.
Oh, my sister
College
loved
students
it. Yeah.
watched
Yes.
it. Parents
College
watched it.
She
students
loved the
watching
Gambit,
it,
the Gambit and
Yeah.
Rogue
It
thing
was-
was her favorite thing.
And that freaks people out in television. Television, everybody's so trying to game the system and say, oh, we got a perfect show for, you know, 18 to 35-year-olds in the Midwest from 8 to 9 o'clock.
Right.
And they make their careers out of trying to to game the system like that. And so we came up with this show, and the whole family loved it, and genders and ages. And I think that just kind of made them scratch their head. How do we advertise for this?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
we
I
could
mean-
advertise. We
It
could
was
advertise
billboard.
anything.
They had billboards. I remember seeing billboards.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
You scratched on so many things. I mean, when you, like I said, when I mentioned the intro, so we're catching our breath from the intro, and then right out of the gate, you're like, Jubilee's at the mall, and she's like hacking arcade machines, and that's how kids lived at those times. You know what I mean? It was you scratched everything off the checklist.
Well, yeah, you basically brought like our lives into that,
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
well, we loved. I mean, I love how you guys really I mean, for people that don't know, because I've actually had to tell people this. Magneto is like the Malcolm X, and Xavier is like the Martin Luther King, and that's how they're going through the whole mutant style thing that's
good
going
one.
on. But I feel like a lot of people do not know that, like the younger generation, anyways. But the way you guys did that, how you guys handled that was so great.
Dope.
I loved it, man. Like I recognized it immediately,
Yeah.
But I had to tell people so many times over the years. But how you guys brought that, how you mutant freaks, and it was the same style, like the deal that going on.
Friends of Humanity. Yeah.
And the way they handled it, like they believe they're both right how they're handling it by any means necessary, and
Yeah.
he's handled it with peace.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved that.
That was
And that was the
awesome.
first time,
Yeah.
young minds were exposed to something, that concept.
Uh-huh.
And I say 30 years later, did we teach you nothing?
No, he
The
taught us
world's
so
hair
much.
is on fire right now.
So much.
I
Yeah.
definitely have to ask. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead. Ask.
I
Ask.
definitely have to ask both of you guys, and I'm sure you have heard this so many times. Which is your favorite invention, your favorite character?
Oh, that's a good one. I like
think
that
I know.
one.
I think
Come
I
on.
know.
Yes, separately.
Separately.
I love this one.
All right. Well, okay. As a writer and as a romantic poet kind of person, and the joke talking with Joe Angel about the voice, the great George Buza for Beast. I'm in love with Beast.
Right.
He was
Right?
he was the smartest person in the room. And as a writer, you got to pretend you were the smartest person in the room if you were writing for Beast. And the damaged poet soul, and oh my
Dang.
God!
Oh, those
I
are his
love
best
that.
lines. Yeah, right on time.
And a fun thing, this was, again, all these things, I love that we're talking about them now 30 years later. A lot of this was accidental, and something took seed, or it's like, oh, that works.
Or kind of grew. I mean, Beast was going to be just a secondary character in the series. That's why we had him thrown in prison after
my
the
boy,
first
that's right,
story.
huh?
Civil-
Because
yeah.
because we were focusing on like half a dozen of the other people, and he was going to be kind of a guest. But we all loved writing for him so much that by the end of the first season, we kept on finding scenes. We always need to add Beast.
Right.
And so it's like he asserted himself into the stories, and it was great.
And among the X-Men team that we all know and love, he is the only one who can't walk down the street and not have people point and go, "You're different. You're other.
Yeah.
You are a mutant." And that was so important for, I think, the telling of stories, to remind ourselves, how this is playing out, in the real world and anything, the other. But pilot episode, they're breaking into the place where they're keeping the mutant files,
Right.
and Beast has a call to arms.
Yeah. And we didn't know what we were going to put there, and it really came down to, like, written younger shows, and we'd enjoyed other cartoons. And it's called a call to action in heroic in action cartoons. And there's things like Cowabunga or whatever. And
Yeah.
there's some of the stuff that's funnier or silly or Avengers Assemble.
Right.
I just thought if
War
it's
Cry.
Beast. If it's Beast, it's funny if he comes up with a really obscure line of poetry. And it was just like a one-off.
Right.
It was like he came up with this weird poet. It's the only time in the history of TV and movies that weird poet's ever been quoted.
Yeah.
And okay, that made us smile. And then people liked it. And so the writers started getting competitive and said, okay, well, I'm going to come up with a more obscure Beast quote. And then we started thinking about it, became conscious of it.
And then he's like a Beast character saying this stuff, though. That's what was wild.
It was great fun.
We know that's exactly like I mentioned before in that episode, Weapon X Lies in Videotape.
Yeah.
It came
Yeah.
straight.
Oh, yeah.
It was in that movie when Wolverine realizes that his memories are fake, and it just breaks his heart,
Yeah.
And then like the audience is heartbroken, and there goes Beast. The lie is half the truth is ever the blackest of lies, and it just like rubs it in deeper.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. We look back and people ask, how there's all this intense emotional drama going on. Wolverine's getting his heart broken every third episode.
Yeah, he was, man.
And people are angry with each other and yearning for each other and sacrificing for each other. And we look back at it and we think part of the reason is we were doing a kids show, and we couldn't show physical violence. We couldn't show physical intensity. We had to put it into the character's emotions, and that's okay because parents aren't going to if you got people beating each other up and
if it wasn't a robot, Wolverine had to like chop boxes down or something.
So the new one, how are you able to show more violence in that one? And you can't talk about that.
Yeah, we can't talk about it. Other
what can you guys talk
Watch
about?
it, tune in, and we would love to hear how folks
Yeah.
feel
Oh,
right
it's
now.
gonna happen.
because
You know what?
are
We did have
very-
a follow-up
We're gonna
interview
have to
then
have you.
after
Yeah,
this.
we're
I
gonna
would
have to
love
have you guys back after this.
We got to.
We don't
We're
have
gonna have a watch party. We're gonna have a watch
Yeah, what's
party.
your
One
favorite?
last-
What's your
What's
favorite
your
character?
favorite character?
Oh, my
Eric,
favorite
yeah.
character.
Okay,
Okay.
before we
No, go ahead.
again, 1992, Beast, trying to come up with quotes for Beast. No internet.
We did have an internet, so we
had had Book of Quotations.
No,
got a couple dusty old quote books.
Encyclopedia
Yeah.
Britannica.
Dang, that is wild.
That's where we're looking
I love these
because
facts about it.
we're not that literate. We're not that well read. We got cut. But so anyway, mine I had to be kind of love all the characters because as I was reviewing and editing and working with the writers on all the different stories, I had to try to get into everybody's skin, and so that was I tried not to have favorites. It's
gotta be tough.
But I found myself empathizing most and feeling closest to Xavier, which is not a real popular character. It's because I had 20 different writers trying to get this thing done for 4.5 years, and I was the guy that tried to keep them all together, even if they were very different people and maybe didn't get along or whatever.
Oh, so you felt like you were Xavier.
I felt like the daddy in the room
dope.
Yeah.
that had to keep
Right.
all these guys
Right.
kind of
Since
going,
you brought that
going
up-
in the same direction, so it felt like we were all part of the same team.
Right.
And the only
was-
time we
it
get
was
to see my
seamless.
other
You're not
favorite
leaving
character,
my son out.
right? Do you remember that other episode when we get to see Iceman for like the only time, and him and Xavier
Right.
have like this they have this relationship where it's like, you didn't understand me, and he was like, dude, I tried to give you a shot, but you blew it. Like this prodigal son effect with Iceman, and the audience wasn't aware. Like, they already knew each other before. It's like off camera before the show started.
Yeah,
it was just such an immersive show in that aspect. But that was a good element with Iceman, Bobby, and Professor Xavier. Was that personal for you?
You know what? Those kind of things. When I look in the books, because what we do is we try to. I was new to a lot of these characters, like say Nightcrawler, and looking up Nightcrawler and say he's devout. So I said, okay, we're gonna have a really intense episode about faith, because that's what
that's
he's
a
so
good
cool
one.
about.
Yeah, I like
okay,
that episode.
and Bobby, there's stuff about his tension with Xavier, and I thought, okay, let's really push this and have it be a father and a couple sons. Like, I think it's, Scott's mad Bobby for getting away. No, you spoiled him, Xavier. I mean,
Oh yeah, that's right. The big brother element with
yeah,
Cyclops.
it was like here's like a gift. Okay, there's some tension between Cyclops and Bobby and Xavier, and man, we would push that personal stuff because
Beast is the middleman. Beast is like trying to keep the peace.
he's and it made for more satisfying storytelling for us because the fighting is always going to be there. We were talking about that with our main boss, and we just all agreed it's kind of like in a western. You're going to have a certain number of shootouts and horse chases or
Right.
whatever.
I'm not sure if you
And-
were aware either, not to cut you off, but so many fans were like, great, so now Iceman's going to be on the team from here on forward. And then you just gave us this soft disappointment every time. Colossus, no.
There are just too many
Long
characters.
shot.
Yeah, there's a lot
No.
of characters. I mean, like I was a big Nightcrawler fan, so I wanted
Yeah,
to see
right,
him. Like,
Nightcrawler,
but you guys keep bringing him in.
And then
Like, I
it's
loved how you
then they
guys
go,
were doing that.
then they say goodbye.
I love that though. You know what I mean? Like what I'm seeing from the preview of the new one that's coming out, I really feel like Cyclops from the preview. It looks like Cyclops really going to take that lead on because he's like, this is my X. I really feel like he's
Yeah,
going to take
the
that
trailer,
lead on.
yeah, the trailer shows that
You're going to
pretty
see him
good.
more of like an Xavier type of character, trying to be anyways. I feel like that's what you guys are trying to do with him. I know you guys can't talk about it.
Yeah, I
but
thought Cyclops was your
I try to
favorite
dial in on that. You know what I mean?
Well, and interestingly, if you look at what you had like 5 characters as in the original cast, and it grew. I mean, including Beast, including Jean Grey.
We ended up with 8 or 9, and that's
True.
and it became kind of unwieldy to tell stories. So if you notice in a lot of the stories, we break into 2 or 3 teams, and some people are maybe not much
Yeah.
in the story, and
Bishop
we're
stuck
focusing
around
on.
too.
And it just was a lot easier to tell an in-depth story with only, say, 3 or 4 of the characters.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved how you guys
Yeah.
just introduced them at certain points, and I was like, "Whoa, man, that's dope!" How he came in, and I loved it because I kind of understood. There's just so many characters that you guys are having, and you guys chose these certain ones, and I feel like a lot of them, like Gambit probably wouldn't have been as big if you guys didn't bring him in, or Beast. They probably wouldn't have the fan base at all if you guys didn't bring him in.
Oh,
You know,
100%.
because during that time, Gambit wasn't around like that. You know, I was like, dude, that was a really, because Gambit's like one of the baddest dudes ever. I think. You know what I
just
mean?
came out not too recently in the comic. He's one of the
Yeah.
him and Jubilee are like one of the hottest characters.
Yeah.
To be like just freshly inserted,
And
then
that was part of the thing that Marvel was saying. We've just introduced
Mm-hmm.
like Gambit and Jubilee and Cable and a couple other folks
Yeah,
in the
Cable.
last year or so in the comics. Is there a way you could work some of these in because we're wanting to spend the next couple of years finding out who these folks are, and so that was their point of view, and that affected say why we used Jubilee instead of Kitty Pryde as just we wanted to have a young girl, and Jubilee was the one that they were going with, and so that's cool.
I like Jubilee.
But she was like the audience. She was.
We jumped at Gambit because he's so different from everybody else and so mysterious, and they hadn't really written much for him, so we could kind of even comic book fans would find him a little bit mysterious. I mean, we've been watching Xavier for 30 years. We knew him.
Yeah.
But Gambit was this new guy, and
he was more like a thug. Like he.
Oh
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
he had the accent. He had
can't-
everything
yeah.
going. Yeah, he was cool.
Could you trust him? Could you not? I mean,
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
a very interesting thing to
And
plan.
you got to give these Canadian actors credit. They're all
Oh,
Canadian.
it's phenomenal.
Rogue
Every
is
single
not
one
a
of them.
Southern girl. She's from
Roseanne.
Lenore Zann. She's from Australia through Canada, and everybody. And I'm from the South. I grew up in East Tennessee. Lenore hit that Southern. She's
Well, yeah, I mean, Cal Dodd,
Sounds
yeah,
like Georgia to me.
Wolverine. Yeah, they even did the voices for the video games. I mean, it bled over. You know, it cemented in so many people's minds, so many genres outside of the show.
Would you guys be open to having another interview after the show's out and everything at some other time?
Yeah, it'll a little while.
We gotta let it simmer. We gotta let it simmer.
Let's see all 10 episodes because there's gonna be one a week.
Oh, that's
Okay.
true.
Oh yeah,
And
that's
so
good.
The first one's March 20th, so that's maybe 2.5 months after that.
How long ago
Yeah.
did you wrap
We'll
on
watch
it
them.
so people get an
Yeah.
idea of like how it works nowadays? Since you talked about how it was before back in those days, how about now? So when you turn in the last or the final, and then now, how long's it been? Or
Are you saying? Oh, you mean okay? Which
Like when you
talking-
wrapped on your end of production with for this show, X-Men '97, and then now here it comes. Now it's in a week. So how long ago did you guys finish your work?
Those guys have been working on this for like 2.5 years.
Wow.
It's amazing. It's some beautiful animation, guys.
On November 12th, 2021, Disney Plus Marvel announced its production of the show X-Men '97.
Wow.
Together with no, I'm just reading.
Yeah,
it
we're
out.
an old press release.
We
That's how
brought you the
long
show
they've been.
as
They've been doing
Right,
it.
right, wow.
Doing it.
Years.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah. So they,
Can I
yeah,
ask
so
you a
they,
question?
yeah,
we made it.
I know we
We're
gotta
running
wrap
out
it
of time, but
We're,
we made
we're,
it.
we're running out of time, so we got to wrap it up in a minute. But he wants to ask you a question too.
I definitely have to, and I'm sure the people want to know, how did these two creative minds meet and come together? That's wild.
And you guys get to work on this together. That's insane.
Like, where did you guys meet?
That's a
Like,
better show.
How did you
That's
meet?
a better story.
You know, how did you guys meet? Like,
and Walt Disney, she was a freelancer and she was pitching
Freelance. I was
stories.
desperately trying to break into
Yeah,
Hollywood.
and
Desperately. 10 years
I've been
trying to-
working.
oh,
about
so
3
10 years you was trying to
10
get
years.
in. Okay.
Hustling.
Yeah,
Yes. Mhm.
yeah, and so I'd been in the business about 3 years, and I was taking a few months off to go work on a movie for a friend, and so suddenly Chippendales Rescue Rangers, where I was working
Nice.
at the Disney Afternoon, they needed someone to take over my desk, and so
And they would allow writers to come in and pitch to them, even if you didn't have an
So-
agent,
so
which
this
I
young-
didn't have at that time.
so this young woman who'd been pitching to them for 6 months and beating on the door saying, "Let me in."
Let me in.
And she'd written one really good script for them. She came in and took over my desk, and so I came back 5 months later and got the office next to hers. We started going out, and so
Holla.
You're all
It was the best. You're in my best.
So happy hours going on down the street. He was wondering,
State your name.
you ain't up to nothing.
You did the old Xavier mind trick. Didn't you?
Nice.
Also, he left his taxes on the computer that I was using, so I could see he made money.
Yes. Yes.
Hey, it wasn't an accident, he
He
said.
said, I did that.
I love that. We're getting exclusives here.
Yeah.
We're getting exclusive drops.
We love it. Well, here on House Over Baz, I really think it's important that, we brought people like you on here because you guys are the X-Men, right? You guys created them, and people they don't get that kind of credit. I feel like a lot of creators you get to see, the from the movies and all that, but they don't ever get to talk to you guys, the people that are actually creating and giving these people life in the cartoons, the comics. They don't get to talk to these people. I feel like conventions and things like that, but not for mainstream. And I really want to bring people like that.
We didn't
on.
know from cons and festivals
Yeah.
about 6 years, 5-6 years ago. We
Oh,
hadn't
really?
been going. No one had asked.
and then we
had nothing to offer.
and she got me to write that first book previously on X-Men about interviewed everybody that worked on the show, and
The
so
oral
we had
history.
something
Yeah, I need to get that one.
to bring to cons,
Talk to us.
and we discovered that like the entire world, we took a trip on a job
Sorry.
to Singapore, to Singapore, and okay, well there we go,
Kinda,
and
yeah.
we're there in the airport, and
And
the
I'm
TS.
wearing previously on X-Men.
Yeah,
That's
the
all I know.
TSA agents all run up, Malaysian TSA agents run up to us and say, "Oh, X-Men's our favorite. Storm's so cool. She's so strong."
Nice.
Like,
And
you
we
know X-Men?
we
It's
realize the entire world,
Yeah,
Fox
we
got
didn't know.
their best cartoons out to the entire world,
Oh, yeah.
and there are
100%.
people by the tens of millions that enjoyed this stuff because we're just cranking at our home office or at our dining room table,
Yeah.
and then as soon as we get a show done and we all shake hands and hug and say it was a great experience, we're on to the next gig. And so it's nice to know that you guys are out there and are watching the show.
And you do have 2 books coming out, correct? Or
They are currently out.
they're out.
And
Can you share that with
Yeah,
us?
they're available at Amazon.
Everyone has to
Or
catch
from
them.
us,
This
if
is
you
an
want.
absolute must-have.
Yeah,
Let
it's called X-Men, the
Art
art
and
and making
Making.
of the animated series, and it's a big art coffee table art book.
Nice.
And then this is the oral history of the show, which includes an interview with Norm Spencer his last interview, the fellow who's the voice of Cyclops, as well
Oh, yeah,
as
rest
Len
in
Wein,
peace.
who was the creator of Wolverine. So
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
we have these two books.
Wow.
I'll say this: Eric and I are trying to get our act together. We have a website, but if folks want to email us directly, we're happy to
Please, can you share
sell
that
you a
with us,
book
please?
and-
Can,
Yeah.
can you share your
and,
emails?
sign
Go
it
ahead.
for you. So do you have that?
No.
Okay, so it's X-Men TAS 92. It's X-Men TAS for the animated series, X-Men TAS 92 at gmail.com. So if folks want to email us directly, we're happy to respond. It's going to be a busy couple of weeks with the show coming out.
Yeah.
but
That's
we
a
do-
way you could get the books on Amazon,
Yeah.
but if you want a personally signed one,
We can
you know,
work
you
that
can
out.
contact us, and we always have a stack in the back room. We can always sell them to you directly.
Yeah, and we'll
That's
ship them
awesome.
out.
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate you guys coming on
Yeah,
the
thank
show.
you so
we
much.
love it so
We're
much.
looking
and-
forward to the show.
Yeah, and like I said, after everything's over, the whole series is over. Maybe we can get you guys back on. But we would love to keep hearing more stories from you guys. I mean, I have a million more questions. You know what I mean? So we would love to get you back on and just keep introducing you guys to a broader audience. You know,
That's very kind of you. We appreciate that.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
has been a lot of fun.
Thanks for having
And
us.
thank you for letting us do it this way.
Thank you
know,
so
Yeah.
much for
How
being
was your
here.
experience? I mean, how was the podcast for you?
Oh, this was fun. This was fun. I hope we weren't repeating ourselves.
No,
not at all.
We
Listen,
loved it.
Yeah, we can go.
We loved it. We're gonna go home and watch it when we get home, probably.
Yeah, I feel like I missed something, but I want to watch it again, definitely. No, we're definitely looking
All
forward
right.
to the show. We can't wait. We're going to
Yeah.
definitely talk about it again. And when the time comes, we're looking forward to having you on again. And that'd be an
Thank you.
amazing
All
thing.
right.
So
That'd be
thank you
nice.
so much
Be
again
nice.
for your
In
time.
the near future, when you're ready.
yeah.
Right. When the time
All right.
comes.
Well,
When
we
the time
appreciate you guys coming on. You just want to say bye to the audience?
Oh, and we are X-Men TAS on Instagram,
Instagram,
on
yeah, you have
Facebook,
to
on
follow.
Twitter, X, that kind of stuff. So
Thank you for
I
that.
try.
Yes,
Yeah, I
that's
try.
well
Yeah,
needed.
we're gonna
Thank
tag you.
Right,
Yeah, we're gonna make sure
and
everybody-
yeah, thank the audience. And
Please, yeah.
And thank you guys for coming on. If you want to say bye to the audience real quick?
Give them more.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank
we
you
appreciate
again.
it.
We appreciate
We're
it.
about to close out.
Remember, the name's Cable.
House of a Bass. I'm Ronnie Adams.
I'm Jacob Casas, and we are out.
We out of
Shed the
here.
sheep.
Shed the
Thank you.
sheep.